podcast, and I'm Alyssa Washam interviewing Mrs. Pyles and Savannah Crouch. What inspired the creation of Sources of Strength?
So the creation of Sources of Strength is based on a parable where there's this river, and people in the community realize that people are like coming down the river and about to fall over this cliff, and so they set up a watch at the end of the river to like catch people and save them. And one day there's a woman who it's her turn to take watch, but she decides, no, like I'm not going to take watch today. I'm going to walk upstream and figure out why people are falling in the first place. And so it's really based on that, is sending the message of like we need to go upstream and figure out like why are people starting to feel this way in the first place, instead of being so reactive of people are really feeling the struggles of their mental health, and they're to the place of maybe just deep depression and not being able to get out of bed or having thoughts of suicide. Before we get to that point, how do we help support people through their journey and their mental health, and just normalizing that for society in general. So
that's a really good mental health metaphor. And you guys have a Sources of Strength wheel that you base some of this off. Can you explain it a little bit?
Yeah, so we have a wheel that really describes how do I maintain my mental health. So some of those areas would be our physical health and our mental health, which really are tied together. Like we know if we're not sleeping well, we're not eating well, our mental health is not going to be in a good place as well. There's also areas of family, which we describe as like, you know, it can be your family that you're born into. It can also be your chosen family. So just those people who may have started off as family friends or a close friend in grade school, but now you call their mom and dad, like mom and dad, they're your second family. So family's not always, you know, by birth, but just your chosen people. Having positive friends, and that's really like, key is saying positive friends, not necessarily people that are bringing you down, but those people who really uplift you and you enjoy being around them. Gratitude, like just lots of different areas. And you may not be skilled in all of these, but if we can work on different areas and what helps each individual person can really help us maintain our mental health so we don't get to that deep, dark place.
Which part of the Sources wheel would you say is the one that affects students the most? And you could even ask a student Sources of Strength yourself, like, what do you think?
Probably any of the slices that are involving like friendships. I think that relationships are a big thing, especially when coming to school, especially when being in skills. Relationships are one of the biggest parts of mental health, at least for a lot of students. When in doubt, like people can be very different and have very different interests, and they can do a lot of different after-school activities. But one thing that everybody has in common is that they have peers and family and friends.
And I would agree with that for sure. And I think it depends on your stage of life. Like for students in the phase of life you're in right now, developmentally, connection to your peers and to people around you is probably one of the most important things. And it's still important as you get older, but that like deep need to like be accepted and by everybody kind of dissipates as you get more confidence in yourself and you kind of have your core group of people. So it does get better. I know a lot of adults say like just wait until you get older, like it's going to be so much harder. And that's really my least favorite message that is sent out there, because really like your brains are not fully developed yet. You don't have the skills yet that you develop throughout life. So it really does get easier to handle a lot of difficult things as you get older. So
speaking of bringing members into Sources of Strength, how is the recruitment process? Like how do they come in?
Okay, so it's different every year. After our first year, so the first year we had to mainly base it off of staff recruitment and just referrals of like this student is a really positive person in class, they're a good peer leader, and that may be like your really loud, outgoing peer leaders who get everybody energized and ready to go, and it's also your quiet kids that are in the corner, always doing the right thing, always helping the person next to them. We just want everybody in Sources to identify with somebody else throughout the building, so that when they look at the Sources members, they can say, hey, like that person is similar to me, and maybe they can help me know how to help myself through my mental health journey.
What was the process in training the students that were recruited? The training day you guys had, what did you guys do that day?
So we really just educate students on what is Sources, what are some things that we might be doing throughout the school year, what is a campaign, because we talk a lot about doing campaigns and bringing awareness for mental health and just normalizing talking about our mental health. and why is it important? What kind of characters do we look for in our sources of strength group?
And I know you went to the training last year. What was your experience during the training? What did you guys do?
Yeah, it's a lot of, like she said, team building mostly.
Bonding.
Yeah, and getting to know other students in the club. And it does feel really odd because everybody is really different, like she mentioned. Yeah. But then it's also a lot of getting involved with Apollo's seasonal events and school activities or events that we host. So it's not just kind of getting to know your peers and getting to know about sources, but it's also about getting sources out there and getting ourselves involved in what goes on at Apollo.
What was your favorite event you put on behalf of Sources of Strength?
I feel like that's hard. I like it. I feel like everything that we've done so far, I think it's just really fun to watch the students come up with other ideas. I think anytime that we're recognizing when people are doing a good job already, like sending positive messages out there instead of those like, don't do this, don't do that, like be aware of this, like this scary thing. We try to send messages out there that are about hope, help, and strength. What are the things that helps me? We did a podcast a couple years ago with a couple of students, and they really just talked about what are the things that help them. And I really enjoyed that campaign because they had things that they do that included the Sources Wheel, but their own twist on it and what were the things that were helping them. And I really just enjoyed that because they came up with ideas that me as an adult, I'm not going to always relate to everything that helps students, but they can come up with some really great ideas and send those messages out there that there is hope and there's strength in our own, humanity and ways that we can maintain our mental health in a good way too.
Speaking of positive messages, I hear every day on the announcements about the gratitude challenge. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. So having gratitude is one area in the Sources Wheel, so thankfulness, that we really try to focus on. And there's a lot of scientific research that actually says if you just focus on things to be grateful for every day, it changes, the way your brain functions throughout the day. If you're focusing on it, that's what your brain is going to think about. So it's not necessarily that toxic positivity where you just like have to be positive all the time and just look at the bright side. We can look at things and say, yeah, like this really hard thing is going on, and also I have a lot to be grateful for, and that gives us strength and hope to keep going through those hard times.
How have you seen Sources of Strength affect the students and the school overall?
I think it's just been really fun to watch students who you may not expect to be leaders. This is always my favorite part. So there might be like the quiet people in the group who the first day during that big training, they don't say a whole lot, but then they come to every meeting afterwards, or they come up with really great ideas that I didn't necessarily think about. And it's just fun to see them thrive and gain those leadership skills.
How has Sources of Strength affected you?
It's kind of given me a new way of looking at things that are going wrong in my life or things that I'm kind of struggling in. Because of the wheel, it kind of shows you that there are multiple aspects of your life that you can be grateful for. And just because one section of that falters, whether I'm not doing so well physically, like keeping up with my physical health, or I'm not keeping up with my relationships, there are other parts of my life that I can get better in or that I can be grateful for.
That's a perfect way to put it. Okay, I need to look at the paper. If you could expand the program in any way, what would you add?
I think if I could expand the program in any way, maybe adding a piece of, like at the end of each school year, we did it a little bit this past year where we took videos and had advice to the incoming juniors and incoming seniors from the previous members of just like, if there was anything that you could do to help yourself through your journey at Apollo, what would you do or what advice would you give? I would love to expand that into having like mentors. So when incoming juniors come in, having a senior from their same lab kind of mentor them through that, or just give them mental health advice, because it is really scary to come into the school building that you don't know anybody and maybe you don't have those skills to build new friendships yet, or you're afraid to get involved in things. If you had somebody who was like, hey, yeah, like I've done this thing, and kind of mentor them through that, I would love to add something like that.
Speaking of like coming into Sources of Strength, what was the most surprising thing for you coming into Sources of Strength?
I would say the amount of members in Sources of Strength, or how easy it was to get into it. I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah.
but when I got in, it kind of seemed like it wasn't as accessible as it is, as long as, because when I came in, we had our teachers nominating us.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how that's changed, but it felt a little difficult to get into, but it's really not. There's a good amount of kids in Sources of Strength, and it feels like, I don't know, I was just expecting it to be a smaller group, but it's really not. It's kind of bigger than I thought. Yeah.
And it does seem like almost like a, I don't know, because you have to be nominated, it's like a secret group.
Yeah, it feels, I felt like.
So the more that we've built on it too, like I get recommendations from like other students, and even some students will come down and say, hey, like I really want to be involved in Sources, and that's totally fine. I want students to want to be involved in it. But sometimes it's just that like fear of, well, am I qualified for this? So I've had some kids, when I tell them like, hey, a teacher nominated you because you're a good peer leader, and in your classes, like you show a lot of leadership skills, and some of them are like, really? Like me? And it's really because sometimes you just have that quiet leadership and you don't recognize that that is a good skill to have. Not all leaders are really loud. Most good leaders are quiet.
Yeah.
And they show leadership just by being a good person. So it's not as big and scary as sometimes we think it is.
Yeah. And what's your overall goal for the program?
I think just to reach every student and let them know that it's okay to talk about their mental health.
Yeah.
And to give them something to really lead on. So a lot of like suicide prevention or violence prevention programs speak a lot about like those doom and gloom statistics, but when you ask a kid, hey, like if you are struggling with your mental health, what can you do? Most kids can't answer that question.
Yeah.
And I want to get to a place where they can say, actually, like I do have these resources and I do have some ideas of what I can do to help myself.
And speaking of mental health just changing constantly and like the different effects, how do you keep it fresh and relevant every year with Sources of Strength, the program?
I think the key is truly the peer leaders. So you guys are going to tell me like what are the trends, what are you noticing in your peers, and then it's on me to kind of trust you, but also do my own research and say, hey, these are the things that we can do in a school building. And if I'm noticing trends, I reach out. We have a local mental health board. And I just say, hey, like I'm really noticing like an uptick in this kind of behavior, or students really are struggling with this. Is that something that other schools are noticing? And then just trying to come up with things, because things do change all the time. And it's kind of my responsibility to make sure that I'm staying up to date on all of that.
Yeah. What is the most exciting thing about the future of Sources of Strength for you?
I think just, again, like watching people learn and grow. I didn't mention this before, but one thing that was really exciting for me is watching our English department. They're rock stars at incorporating Sources of Strength into their classrooms. And last year we had Mrs. Welch came on board, and she started like the thankfulness campaign with like just writing thank you letters to a staff member and posting those around the building and stuff. And she joined Sources and then had already been doing that. I'm like, you're already doing it. Like, you're already doing Sources. This is great. And then they just always are coming up with fun ways to incorporate it into their classroom so that it's really reaching every student in the building.
Yeah, it's great to get other staff members involved along with the students. You guys outsource people as well, like bring in mental health people who know more about it, and like, who do you bring in?
So from Prevention First, they're out of the Cincinnati area. They actually came in and did the training for us this year, and then we work with Sources of Strength Ohio, and they just give us a lot of resources and always keep us up to date on new trends. They have like, I don't know, different fun campaigns that other schools are doing, so then I can bring that to you guys and say, hey, like, is this something that you want to do? And we can kind of make our own Apollo twist to it. So
Perfect. How do you guys use the Sources of Strength mental health wheel to implement it in your daily life?
Okay. So we actually have a couple different ways. One way is like during our Sources of Strength meetings, we'll ask like, what's one area that you want to get better in? And then just having an action step to do that. So for me, I said physical health, I believe. So really working on making time for that and just for me, and my action step would be saying no more to other people, because I'm automatically volunteer for things, or if somebody asks me for something, oh yeah, I can do that. But then I kind of neglect my own physical health at time, like not getting enough sleep or not making enough time for myself. So that was like my action step, and then just seeing the areas that other kids said that they would do that for themselves as well.
Can you share a moment when you saw sources of strength make a difference in someone?
Yeah, so like with the thankfulness campaign, I think a lot of teachers and staff members go a lot of times without getting a thank you from anybody for very long periods of time. So some of them, like reading them, like kind of tearful, and just like the good kind of tears. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that you noticed those things or cared about those things. So I just think it's good to see how that can positively impact both that person and the student who is saying thank you. I think it just brings them joy too. So it's just kind of a good thing for both. Just acts of service in general can be very good.
Yeah, that betters the mental health of a student and even a teacher. Like mental health is important for everybody, not just the students.
Yeah. And I do outpatient counseling outside of Apollo as well. And sometimes I'll pull up the sources wheel and say, hey, like what areas are you really struggling in right now? And it can really help not just, again, the students, but any adult 100%. Throughout their life.
So do other schools have sources of strength, or is it just our school?
So it's all over the state of Ohio. It didn't even start in Ohio, so kind of all over the U.S. where people are using it. We're the only ones in this specific area that utilizes it, but like Columbus, Cincinnati, a lot of them use sources of strength as well.
So how long has it been going on? How many years?
We have had sources for 3 years. I'm not too sure the actual founding date of Sources of Strength, but it's been around for many years.
And you've been involved with it all 3 years?
Yep. So the reason that Sources actually came to Apollo is that we had a House bill, House Bill 123, that came into effect that said every school had to teach a program that covered violence prevention, suicide prevention, and social inclusion. And Sources actually covered 2 of those areas. And I really liked the model of Sources of Strength because it did talk about hope, help, and strength, and just less of the no, don't do this, and more of the hey, these are the things that you can do. And a lot of the messaging before would just be like the other programs would be a 30-minute video that you would watch in class, and we would check mark that box and move on. And I just didn't really love that idea of saying like, oh, it's just like a one and done kind of thing. Like our mental health is an ongoing thing that we're always going to need to be working on. So I didn't want to, it would have been the easier thing for me to do for sure, is to just tell your teachers to show you a 30-minute video and move on with my life. But I figured this would be the more
makes
beneficial
a bigger
way.
impact.
Yeah.
And I know you guys do stuff even outside of school. Like I gave a speech on behalf of Apollo for the grant for Sources of Strength. Do you guys do any other stuff outside of Apollo?
Yeah, so there are always opportunities in our community. Our Mental Health and Recovery Services Board in this area is amazing. So we have Activate Allen County that we can also apply for a grant there, and just get more resources into the building of, there's a lot of things on social media about how to help ourselves or what diagnosis we might have. And it's not all bad, but it also does not take place of a mental health professional or what is the really good information out there. So what my goal would really be to have resources here on campus that are evidence-based research books or resources that a student can grab and say, hey, like this is actually good information that can help me, and know that it's been looked over by me and other people that are saying this is good information and not just like a quick 30-second TikTok that you watched and now you're questioning your whole life and whether you have XYZ diagnosis. So
the students, they don't just do a training. You guys have meetings here and there. What do you guys do within the meetings?
So we have meetings after school on Tuesdays. And really that's to just kind of touch base and see how things are going, try to plan some campaigns. And then during school, once a month we meet, and that's really where we get the bulk of things done. So upcoming, like we'll have the Elf on the Shelf again, where last year the elf went around and it had like positive messages on it and just, this is the way the elf says helps him.
And that can really make someone's day for sure.
Yeah, we had students showing up early to school just to find the elf, so they were very excited about it. It just kind of like helps us get through to Christmas break because once Thanksgiving hits, like I'm sure today's the day before Thanksgiving break, and we all feel like it's Friday and we want to go home. So just helps us kind of something to look forward to come to school for every day.
And you guys do other cute little things like the elf on the shelf. Like I know we put up a Christmas tree and made like all those chains and put positive messages on them. And you participated in that. What did you guys do?
So for the chains, they were different slices of the sources of strength wheel, and you had to identify what you were strongest in, or you could write down what you were grateful for, like something within one of the wheels that you were grateful for. And I think I wrote down on one of them I think it was my spirituality one or something. I wrote down that I listened to a lot of podcasts or something like that because it just brought me a lot of peace. It was something new I was getting into. I think that was for spirituality.
Yeah.
And it was within the realm of spirituality, the podcast that I was listening to.
Yeah, and things like that don't just affect the students. They also affect the ones that aren't in sources of strength, because the students have training for a reason, and then they go and implement it on the students that aren't in sources.
Yeah.
So that's great.
It was a really good way to not just help sources of strength members learn what the wheel is and learn what sources of strength is, but it's also a good way to publicize it for the rest of the Apollo students and get them involved.
Do you guys do any social media presence or posters or anything like that? I know there was talk of doing a Sources of Strength podcast, but how's that going?
So we don't have like a podcast in the works. I know like you guys do an amazing job because this is like the area that you work in, right? But for a bunch of amateurs to try to get a podcast together can be a little difficult, and timing is always probably the biggest issue. But yeah, we have an Instagram page where we try to post stuff. There was a fun campaign that we did last year where one of our ACE seniors made like a big poster on the wall in the cafeteria, and they left the I, so it said "Be the I in kind," and then students got to like stand up. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
In front of that.
And then we got to like make a reel out of it. Which would be great if like somebody who's good at that stuff could do it, because it took Miss Pyles a very long time to figure that out, but I did eventually.
It's great because you have all these people in different skill levels in the school, us being a career school, so you can have someone in multimedia help out, or when there was printing graphics, or there's just a whole bunch of skills that could be utilized for sources.
Yeah. Maybe ask about, so like what she mentioned, spirituality, I like that reminded me that I didn't really talk about that area,
So you mentioned spirituality, so tell me more about that and how that goes into the mental health wheel.
Yeah, so that is part of the sources wheel, and spirituality just really means like anything that can help you feel connected to something bigger than you. So of course when we think about spirituality, like most people think like going to church, like those kind of things. It could be something like Savannah mentioned, like listening to a podcast and just feeling connected to other people. Some people it's just going on a walk and being mindful of the nature around you. I think we underestimate the importance of just being silent and just being connected to the world, being connected to people around us, being in a group that is like-minded to us, and just being disconnected from social media, being disconnected from our phones for a little bit, and just really being present with the people in the world around us.
For sure, yeah. What in the sources wheel do you personally resonate with?
I think for me, I could never underestimate like the importance of being connected to people around us. Like we are social creatures, and we're created to be connected to people around us. I know there's a lot of, I guess, messages that go through our culture of like, I can do it on my own, like I don't need anybody. We all need people, like we all need to be connected to people in some aspect. It doesn't mean that you have to be a super social person, but just being connected to others and reaching out and being vulnerable. Especially in high school, it's really easy to just feel like, oh, people don't like me, or they don't want to do anything with me, or like my friends are really outgoing and they always are the one to ask. So obviously if they're not asking me, they don't want to do anything. And I don't think that's reality. I think for the most part, people want to be connected to others, and sometimes we just have to be the one to reach out and say something, even if we're not typically that person to do that. Yeah. We're all struggling and all going through things, and it just helps us to be connected to others. And then I guess the other area would be generosity. I think my job in helping people is
Yeah.
one of the most selfish
100%.
things that I can do, because I love helping people. I love giving people things. Like, that's just my personality. I've always loved doing those kind of things, and I've never seen myself not being in an area in an active service of doing that type of job. So may not have thought I'd be doing this when I was in high school, but I always knew I would be doing something to help others.
Human interaction is so important when it comes to mental health. Human interaction is so important when it comes to maintaining a positive mental health. And I know after you explained the wheel, I would say, even personally for me, I would say physical health, and that goes hand in hand with human interaction, with like doing sports, making sure you're taking care of yourself, and it's just, the whole entire wheel is so important.
Yeah.
And which one did you say you resonated with? I know you said spirituality.
Spirituality is a big one. That's been a big one. I would say right now, though, since it kind of changes a lot, since everybody is always going through something at every point in their life. But my biggest slice of the wheel right now is probably mentors, especially with when I'm working.
Pre-apprenticeship.
Yep,
Yeah.
pre-apprenticeship at Apollo. I think that could be a big one for Apollo students in general, is mentors, because we're here and our instructors are like our bosses, air quotes, and our bosses in the workforce play a big part of our life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think
That makes sense.
learning from a lot of people, especially at this age, our brain is still developing. We're still learning. So having mentors is something that really resonates with me right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, the whole wheel kind of is meant to resonate. I have something in every slice of the wheel. I can find
I agree.
something.
Yeah, and mentoring, I know it would definitely be a big one for all Apollo students. Like, in each lab, you're being mentored by someone, or if you're doing pre-apprenticeship, you're learning things from another person, or you do job shadows or anything. It's all mentoring. So, and that goes into human interaction as well. So it all comes together.
Yeah, the point of the wheel is that there are multiple aspects of everybody's life that are different, but the wheel kind of allows you to organize your own life and identify what you have, or be grateful for what you have, and you're able to put parts of your life into this wheel that you can be grateful for.
Yeah.
You have
For sure.
something for every slice, at least one thing.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important to have so many different members of sources of strength, because, something that you say might really resonate with somebody, but not other people, but then maybe Savannah says something that really connects with somebody else. So just getting the message out there and talking about like what does help me, then that really helps people start to resonate with different things. And you may be doing stuff now that you don't even realize is a healthy activity or is something that's going to have a huge impact in your life long term. Like, I had panic attacks in high school, and then a friend randomly...
Just say the panic attack thing again. Yeah, start from there.
Yeah. So I had panic attacks in high school, and I had a friend randomly ask me if I wanted to join the swim team with her. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, I don't have anything better to do. And then it really helped me learn how to control my breathing. And as I'm learning more in this profession, cold water is a way to stimulate your vagus nerve, which is part of your parasympathetic part of your body, and it sends signals throughout your whole body to basically calm down. So every time I was like jumping in the pool that was freezing cold every morning, like it was telling my body, hey, calm down, it's okay. It's very hard to have a panic attack when your face is head down in the water, right? So it was like physically forcing me to really learn how to control my breathing in a way that my nervous system was calmed down, and I was just learning those skills along the way. And I didn't join the swim team because I wanted to do those things, but it had a huge impact in my life long term.
Yeah, same thing with me. I joined soccer my sophomore year, and I pretty much just did it as kind of get myself out of my comfort zone and get over kind of social anxiety. And it definitely wasn't an amazing experience all the time, but it definitely brought me to who I am today and made me more confident in myself. So I'd say that just so many things in the wheel you can do to help yourself and make your mental health better. So.
Mhm.
Okay. What message would you like to leave students about sources of strength today?
I would just say that, like, at the end of the day, you matter, your strengths matter, and they're going to help you so much more than all of these, like, negative things that we go through in life. We're always going to have things to help us through, so just look for those people that can help you. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and tell people when you're going through things, and also don't be afraid to do those little things, whether it's just telling somebody thank you because they had a positive impact in your life, or reaching out to a friend because you notice they've been really quiet, instead of internalizing that as like there's something wrong with you or there's a problem with you and that friend. Just assume positive intent, assume that they have good intentions, and put good out into the world, and it'll come back to you.
All right, thank you so much. This podcast definitely would make a positive impact on someone. I think this podcast could definitely help impact someone in a positive way, and definitely could. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're doing great. Don't be nervous.
Right. Okay. I think this podcast, people listening to this, could definitely help them make a positive impact on their life, just listening to this and listening to the advice you're giving. And thank you so much for coming in. This is the
Thank
Follow
you.
Through podcast, and I'm Alyssa Washam.